All right, it says the webinar has started. Let's begin. We're gonna start seeing some participants coming in. Hi everyone, thanks for joining. I'm just watching some of the names coming in. Uh, let's wait for a few seconds in the meantime.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Introduction. Hi everyone. My name is George. I'm a partnership lead at Reply.io. We are here to talk about our recent integration with Clay and what it means, what it changes for salespeople, for sales agencies, for sales professionals. I am joined here by Patrick. Patrick, I apologize. I don't want to mispronounce your name again. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, no problem. Patrick Spychalski, so it's spelled pretty phonetically, but yeah, Patrick Spychalski. I am the co-founder of The Kiln. We're an agency that implements Clay for other companies. I also work at Clay, helping out with partnerships and enterprise implementation, and so a bit of a symbiotic relationship there, if I guess you could say. But yeah, super pumped to be here. Been a big Reply fan for a while. We've actually done one of these before, and yeah, I'm fired up about this integration. I'm really excited to talk
Yeah,
about it.
sounds good. And for those of you who don't know, Kiln is the Rolls-Royce of agencies, I guess, if according to Patrick. So if anyone joining us today or watching this in a recording needs sales assistance of any kind, feel free to talk to Patrick. We're going to have contact information at the end of the event. But let's probably jump in. Oh, before we jump in, because this is an event that focuses on two technologies, Reply and Clay, I wanted to ask everyone joining, who are you coming from? Let us know whether you heard about this event from Reply or from Clay or elsewhere, just somewhere randomly on LinkedIn. It's always interesting to know where people find this information. So feel free to comment. All right. And it's from Reply, Ignacio, randomly on LinkedIn. So that's still a good thing, meaning our LinkedIn content strategy works. Uh, reply,
Dude, we should have
replies.
blasted this more on Clay. Yeah, a lot of replies here.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go to Clay after this, and unless I'm gonna start seeing more Clay in the list. But anyways, yeah. So apologies. I do have some issues with the hardware. I'm sometimes disappearing. If I'm disappearing for a long time, I'm just gonna switch the camera. But anyways, so what are we here to talk about? Let me start sharing the screen and kind of guide you guys through it. So we don't have too much time, but we should be able to cover some of these fundamentals, some of this information to uh, uh, kind of set the stage. We're not going to be just doing a demo, guys. We want to focus on how this integration that we built benefits you, what you can do, how you can apply this in terms of applying specific tactical tips and tricks and recommendations that we have developed on both sides. Patrick is the uh, expert in all things Clay. Obviously, I've been with Reply for a while, and I can talk about the Reply side of things. And together, we hope that this is going to be valuable, again, to everyone watching this live or watching this in a recording. So what are we here to talk about? Let me show you. So Reply and Clay integration, why it matters. As you guys may know, Clay is all about integrations. It's kind of in the nature of the product itself. It wouldn't be here without integrations. But why does specifically Reply integration matters? And we're going to talk about that. There's a handful of reasons, but all very important reasons. Then we're going to switch to Clay tactics. So we're going to go from the kind of workflow perspective. What do we do first? We do inbound and or outbound data flows in Clay, and Patrick is going to talk about that. And then we're going to transition to what to do after that. How do we apply that knowledge, information, data that we have accumulated and orchestrated in Clay to outreach tactics, which is done in Reply. So we're going to talk about two trends: email versus multi-channel campaigns and linear versus conditional campaigns, which is also a big trend lately. Next, we're going to talk about personalization. Specifically, how can we apply AI in personalizing our outreach in such a way that it maximizes the engagement metrics, whether it's open rates, reply rates, or any other metrics that you're tracking in your outreach. And if we have enough time, we're going to also then switch to questions and answers. Hopefully, we're going to be able to fit everything into 45 minutes. If not, as always, we're going to be sharing this recording. We're going to be sharing this presentation because it has some pretty useful links in it. So reach out to us or just watch out for some marketing emails after this event, and we're going to be sharing everything as usual. All right, so let's switch to why this matters, why Clay and reply integration is important. So as of today, having spoken with probably at this point thousands of sales professionals and lately agencies, because my job is primarily talking to reply partners, many of which are sales agencies, business development agencies, marketing agencies, and we're seeing patterns. We're seeing the same challenges over and over again, which is number one, fragmented data. Everybody is doing the same thing, getting data from a handful of sources, or not a handful, but a large number of sources, people, data vendors, some automation technologies, and so on, and then having to manage all of that. So that is pricey, time-consuming, and inefficient. Challenge number two, complexity in automation. Having all of that data, we now have to apply it somehow. We have to run email campaigns, linking campaigns, phone calls, SMS sometimes, and social media campaigns, and synchronizing all of that and playing off of each other is a pretty complex task in today's sales person's job. Uh, Cost overhead, that kind of goes without saying because many tools means a lot of money. And training and adoption, having to then orchestrate those multiple tools and operate and integrate diverse, sometimes non-integrating tools by means of, introducing Zapier, Make, third-party tools, developers is also a big challenge. And then because of all of that, scalability. How do we grow and how do we, again, continue to integrate all of those solutions together in such a way that is seamless and that continues to scale as the company is growing? So what do we have to fix that? We have two solutions. We have Reply and Clay. Surprise, surprise. The way we solve this is as follows. So again, this is just a kind of introduction to what we're going to be talking about in essence. So fragmented data is solved by Clay. You guys know, if you don't, Clay would pull data from a multitude of different sources in one cohesive fully automated kind of environment that Patrick is going to talk more about. Complexity in automation. Automation is our kind of bread and butter here at Reply. We do multi-channel, multi-step conditional branch sequences in such a way that you just set it and forget it once and for all, and then just keep improving on things. So automation is automation complexity is reduced significantly by applying a tool that can do true multi-channel automation. Cost, again, 2 tools are cheaper than 10 tools. Therefore, you have just 2 tools to pay for, and it also doesn't hurt that a Reply, in my understanding, I might be mistaken, but Reply is the only true multi-channel outreach tool that integrates with Clay that offers unlimited plans. By unlimited, I mean we have these volume plans that don't depend on how many seats you create or how many email mailboxes you connect. So none of that matters. You can just run your outreach to your heart's content. And Clay, as you also know, has this unified, simple credit system to simplify the lives of sales individuals having to draw from multiple different tools. Training, again, same thing. two tools are easier to onboard than 10 plus. And these are just some examples of what tools you're saving on in terms of time of adoption. Lead gen enrichment, AI personalization, warm-up tools, email automation, obviously LinkedIn, SMS calls, calendar booking, and some others. And scalability, therefore, having two tools, the way you scale is you just extrapolate those scenarios and sequences that work for you onto other groups, other markets, you just copy and paste basically. And therefore, a scalability problem is much less critical. So how does it work? This is just a screenshot. This is the part of my demonstration where I wanted to quickly show you guys, if you haven't seen it already, how to connect reply and claim and how to get started. So the way to get started with the integration, as with most other integrations, is you grab an API key. So if you have a reply account, just go to reply. If you don't have a reply account, those folks that are coming from Clay, let us know. We're going to give you a free trial account, or just go and sign up yourself. We're offering free trial without having to talk to a salesperson, anything like that. So once you have a trial account or a paid account, you go to your settings, API key, grab your API key, just copy and paste it into Clay. In Clay's integration, once you've inserted it into your Clay settings, let me quickly find my demo table that I prepared for this session here. And once you are in a table that you want to connect to your reply account, all you need to do is to add an enrichment column and add reply there. So again, once you have a table that, let's say, you would want to keep syncing with your reply account, in that table where you have to have an email and first name as two kind of required fields, nothing else is required. Everything else is optional, like LinkedIn. But if you have it, that's a good thing. Once you have the table, all you need to do is add enrichment, search for reply, and add one or both of these actions as separate columns. I've already created one of them, which is create contact, and you see replies logo here. And the way you connect, let me do the other one real quick. As you're adding the synchronization, what do you call it, table or column to Clay, this is the remaining steps of the setup that you need to do. You need to provide your API key, the one that we just copied from reply. Save without testing. Once you've done it, you need to select, if we're adding the step that says push contact to campaign, obviously you need to select which campaign or sequence, as we call it, you want to send people to, and which information you want to map. So in order to sync contact to a campaign, all you need to do is the email address key, and then you save it. You save that step. And that's it. So now we have the integration available. Patrick is going to talk more about what to do next with it. But at the very basic level, now you have two actions. From Clay, you can sync all of your contacts, which I've already done for the first 10 contacts. We can sync it with our reply database. And then we can also send them directly to one of those sequences that we have set up in the integration settings just a second ago. And once you run this, it will give you a status that says synchronization successful, and the people are being sent to one of those sequences. And as you know, reply sequences don't require you to relaunch or duplicate or restart them. If it's running, it's running. So again, this is an automated action that could be done fully automatically without even having to open reply once that sequence obviously has been set up and it actually exists. So with this, over to you, Patrick. Let's talk about some of the smarter automation with Clay.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the run through. Yeah, I think what makes this integration so powerful, well, there's a few reasons, but one of the main things is that it disproves a pretty, I would say, commonly said thing in go-to-market today, especially in the modern day, which is that you need dozens and dozens of tools to run an effective inbound or outbound motion. I'm sure everybody's been on LinkedIn and just seen those like crazy tech maps that people will post that have like 100 pieces of technology on it. It's like, these are the best pieces of tech for sales. And you're like, where do I even get started with this? Like, why are there 100 pieces of tech? And I also think that it proves another thing, which is that for inbound and outbound, they're not that vastly different with regards to the sort of tech that you're using. Like this integration is effective for both. And obviously I plan on demonstrating that in just a second, but I think it's important to note that they're not, I would say, at least from a technical standpoint, very different. So I wanted to show a quick flow chart to kind of demonstrate this point before I walk into a few clay tables that actually show how this works in effect. So I will share my screen really quickly when I am able to find the tab that I'm supposed to be sharing. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, yeah, we can.
Huge. Okay. So I wanted to make this like really basic flow chart to kind of just walk through why it proves two different things. The first thing is that inbound and outbound are structurally not that different, and also that you don't need that much tech. And the reason this integration is so important between Reply and Clay is because it kind of proves that point very well. So you can see here that generally when you're using Clay, for those who've never used it before, it's really good at a few different things. The first thing is data enrichment. It's really good at finding specific data on people or companies. You can also use that data to score really easily. So it has a bunch of really great like formulaic functionality within the tool that allows you to create scores for contacts or accounts. You can also use it for really effective personalization, which I'll be demoing in just a second, which of course applies pretty strongly to what Reply does. Obviously, if you're able to personalize really well in Clay, you can push that information to Reply for some pretty awesome multi-channel sequences. And you can also normalize that data, of course, just so when you're sending out messaging, it doesn't sound that different. The reason that I put this little flow here is because you can see that there's actually only 3 to 4 pieces of tech that you really need to run an inbound or outbound motion. And it doesn't really vary between the two. Like you can pretty much apply this exact same model to inbound and outbound. And the only thing that really changes is the data source. Like, so for inbound, obviously your data source is coming from marketing initiatives. When you're running, let's say somebody signed up for a webinar like this one, let's say somebody signed up on a form on your website, let's say somebody visited your website, that is obviously more of an inbound use case. And for outbound, it's all coming from list building. And so the only thing that really changes in this entire structure when you're switching between inbound and outbound is the data source. And all the other stuff can be built within these few tools. And of course, optionally, you can sync it to your CRM as well, which is of course something that we see quite a bit. So I wanted to show this demonstration in practice because again, like I really don't think they're structurally that different. And I wanted to show an inbound flow and an outbound flow in Clay that demonstrates this. So we're in Clay here, and I know George kind of briefly walked through how Clay operates. But again, if you haven't used the tool before, the high level idea is it kind of operates like a spreadsheet, but there are integrations within Clay that can help you find data or augment data or send data somewhere else. And in this table in particular, it is actually capturing website visitors. So I'm using a tool called RB2B. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it on LinkedIn, and it's capturing these website visitors, putting them into a Clay table, and then giving us some information on them. Some very baseline information like their first name, last name, title, company name, LinkedIn URL. And Clay is really good, again, at enriching data and personalizing for that data. So when you're actually, you're able to do a really wide array of really cool AI functions in the tool as well. So I'm not going to like go into the depths of what this Clay table does, but I wanted to at least show that functionality really quickly for you. So first thing I did is I used an AI prompt in Clay, which is essentially just ChatGPT at scale that allows you to determine whether this company or person is a decision maker at a B2B company, because in this case, that's the only people I wanted to target. And from there, we're able to then qualify whether they are or not, and then move on to the next step, which is enriching their LinkedIn profile, find all this information about this person from LinkedIn, which is of course super helpful. Then we can enrich the company and do the exact same thing. Super helpful. We're now able to find all of this company information that we can then use for personalization. Then we go ahead and find their work email. So you can see that Clay is really good at finding work emails for people. And then this is kind of where the personalization thing comes into play. So my idea here from a high level is I wanted to write a first line to this prospect based on one of 2 to 3 different intent signals that we're going to be looking for within Clay. And so there's a couple things that you could look for. The first one is whether they just got hired at a role recently. The second one is whether they have open sales roles at their company. And the third one is whether they recently posted about AI in some capacity. And the cool thing about Clay is you can look for all of this information kind of in a waterfall sequence and then use that information to dictate the sort of personalization that you're doing. So it is a bit of a complex tool relative to maybe other AI personalization tools you've seen, but of course, with great complexity comes a lot more power as well. So what we did here was we looked for open roles at the company. If we had open roles, we checked this box. We then output the person's start date at their company, which we did just through this enrichment before. If their start date was in the past few months, we check a box. In this case, I guess it was the past year. And then we scraped recent posts for the company. If the post was about AI, which we could use ChatGPT to determine, we have right here, you can see a first line that we are pretty much just printing out using ChatGPT that we have structured very carefully saying, hey, congrats on blank based on the post that they put up. And we did this with all of our intent signals. And then you can see here that we have them all aggregated into a first line right here. Came across your LinkedIn and thought as product lead, you might be interested in Clay. Congrats on the new role. Figure that as the new associated with catch goal, you're looking for to do blank. You get the point. You're able to create a bunch of really great personalizations based on these intent signals and then add them to a reply sequence. So that's kind of an inbound use case. I won't walk through the same level of detail with this Clay table for the outbound use case, but the whole idea is that it does the exact same thing as the thing I just showed you. The only difference is that we're using leads that we sourced from Clay just in list building instead of our website visitors. But the exact same stuff still happens. So we're still enriching people here. We're still classifying them here to see if they're part of our ICP. We're still writing personalizations using Clay. And then we're creating first lines and different email sequences. And then we're finding their emails and we're putting them into a campaign once again. And the whole point of this is just to say that this integration is obviously deeply powerful because it allows you to get all this data from Clay and actually use it in an actionable way. So Clay doesn't actually do any sort of sequencing. It's just not one of its functions. But Reply does it incredibly well. You can do it on multi-channel. You can do it with conditional runs. And you can essentially replicate the work of an SDR's most tedious tasks very easily with thousands of people. I mean, you look at this table that says 49,000 rows. So we could just do this for 49,000 people right now if I wanted to blow all my Clay credits. So yeah, I think it's pretty great. And I just wanted to kind of touch on the fact that it works really well for inbound and outbound. It's really effective. And if you can learn Clay properly, it's a really, really powerful thing.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Patrick. Super interesting as always. We are both a partner and also a customer of our B2B because he started with inbound. Shout out to our B2B folks and anybody who's interested in capturing the exact people that are visiting their websites and automating their outreach to them. This is a great tool. But then honestly, to me personally, it feels like there's two extremes mostly in the world of AI. On the one hand, you have tools that are promising, just click one button and we're going to do everything for you. Like we're going to automate, but we're not going to tell you how, but it's going to be great. And on the other side of the spectrum, you have a little bit more complex, maybe not even a little more complex systems like Clay, which is like, again, the Rolls Royce of this whole thing, where you granularly check for one thing after the other. Are they AI? Well, yes, but have they posted about it over the past 5 days and then 20 other conditions? And then only then make such a unique kind of messaging that no other tool would be able to create. And for that reason, by the way, answering somebody just asked a business owner, Tony, that's why you would want to talk to people like Patrick. But again, quick plug, Patrick runs an agency that helps people with that. Oh, by the way, Ruben, yes, if you Ruben had a question. So how does that mean? How does that personalization transform into a reply sequence? You're right, Ruben. That's exactly through custom variables in reply. You simply plug that column in the table, into a reply variable, and you could send an email step that consists of just one variable, and that whole variable will be the whole personalized text. Or you can mix and match and, insert multiple different paragraphs depending on who that person is. It could become pretty complex, but again, the idea is you do this once, but in such a way that going forward doesn't require you to segment people or do any kind of manual touch-ups every time, which saves you a ton of time. And that's what this whole automation is about.
Yeah, and also just to your point about what you mentioned earlier about how there's kind of like two sorts of camps of tools, which I actually fully agree with. There's some tools that are like really trying to go for ease of use, like click a button and we'll have like an AI SDR do something for you. And then the other one kind of being like you need to set up a pretty complex workflow. The reason I think the latter is actually going to be far more effective are a few different things. The first thing is that I think any person running a sales org would be pretty hesitant to just go let AI run on its own. And I think that that concern is actually justified. Like not completely. Like I think like the whole click a button thing maybe is a little bit let's say wishful. I think setting it up and programming it to do the right thing is one thing, right? But like to just like let something run on its own without very much calibration is pretty tough. And the second thing is that ultimately, I think unless the AI that you're programming is able to create really differentiated value in its outbound messaging, it will be pretty tough to replicate the strategy behind something that you could build out in Clay. But yeah, that was just something I wanted to mention quickly. And then somebody quickly asked, as I'm focused now on LinkedIn outreach, are there any cool integrations specifically for LinkedIn campaigns? I mean, Reply does LinkedIn, no?
Yes, I
So
will talk about that. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have too much time. We only reserved like 45 minutes, but let me jump into what I wanted to talk about. But we'll try to get to all other questions, guys. And if we're not able to cover them all, we will follow up with you directly. But keep those questions coming. We will get in touch. But let me continue. I'm gonna continue sharing my screen. So let's talk about the Clay side of things now. Sorry, my super secret calendar and my email. Oh, there you go. Okay, so let's talk about the outreach then. So we've set up these AI lead gen and enrichment processes within Clay. Again, it applies to both inbound and outbound, with the difference being pretty much the source of data and obviously the content. But everything else could be kind of replicated, including in reply. We're going to talk about that. In reply, that's still a sequence. It's just the difference is going to be in the copy, whether it's email, LinkedIn, or other channels, and also in your expectations because of inbound versus outbound. People react differently in different percentages. So, but that comes later, the analytics and the stats. Before I start talking about the sequences, let us know in the comments which sequences you prefer, email only or multi-channel, and why, if you can share that, just so we can kind of gauge the at least within this group of people that are joining us today, what the kind of percentages are. And there's no right or wrong, just to be clear. Some outreach works for email only. Some outreach, what do you call them? Like scenarios, which we're going to talk about, are better, get better results with multi-channel approach, with multiple channels thrown into a cohesive sequence. And we're going to talk about why. So, but what's the difference? Very briefly, we've done separate events and content pieces, which I'm going to share later in this presentation. But briefly, the pros of running email only campaigns is you can get started within minutes, probably. Especially if you use reply, you can just pull some templates and start running a campaign, maybe modify some messaging. Hopefully, we recommend sending your own messaging as opposed to templated, something from a template somebody recommends, even if that somebody is reply.io. So simple, cost effective, and suitable for email heavy audiences. We're going to talk about who those audiences are. Cons are, especially in 2024, you guys have seen this. This is no surprise. the efficiency of email campaigns is dropping. It's never going down to 0%. Email will always be there, but we have to adjust accordingly, and we have to kind of be prepared for the industry trends that, at least in 2024, seem to be declining. The efficiency, the open rates, the reply rates of cold email campaigns in particular. So we have to be mindful of that. Multi-channel pros are the opposite of cons of the email-only outreach. We have higher engagement, thanks to diverse touch points. We're including LinkedIn, email, calls, SMS, WhatsApp, tasks. We can plug into third-party tools through webhooks and tools like Zapier and pretty much do thousands of different things as part of the same sequence. Now, but that comes with complexity, requires more resources, more education, more onboarding, which is partially what this webinar is about, to help you understand all those things. And tool integration. But because, again, the point of today's presentation is two tools became integrated, and therefore it eliminates 10 plus other tools that companies are sometimes using and combining and paying for. So quickly, some channel benchmarks, depending on the outreach channels. I put in the credits to my colleague Vlad, who is doing a ton of work putting together these numbers and stats, and he's very data driven. So he's been doing, I've kind of stole this slide from one of his presentations, but feel free to follow him. That's his information. So in terms of efficiency, we know that cold email, this doesn't have kind of pluses and minuses, pros and cons of each channel, but we know that for B2B cold outreach or inbound versus outbound, the top channels are email, LinkedIn, and calling. Everything else is optional and secondary. Email is sometimes supplemented with the help of video automation, which is increasingly now becoming AI-powered video automation in order to make those videos a little bit more personalized. And shout out to our friends at companies such as Vidyard and Spark. There's a new one we're talking to. Shout out to Weasley. Hopefully we can roll out that integration soon. But you can see the ones with the stars next to them, the efficiencies are different based on different sources, and Vlad tried to kind of put his money where his mouth is in terms of like, these are the sources, and we know that the email plus video is a lot more efficient. We know that LinkedIn is even more efficient in terms of reply rates. So it just makes sense to utilize LinkedIn. Now, by the way, quick side note, LinkedIn is now scalable. So previously we used to say, okay, LinkedIn is so much effective, but you have to be mindful. You have to be strategic about who you put into those sequences, because LinkedIn is only limited to a certain number of connection requests, messages, and so on, without getting into trouble per day. Now that is gone. Pretty much today, or around today, we're launching this feature of adding multiple LinkedIn accounts in a rotating basis, so you can scale LinkedIn as well. So that is no longer a problem. So, but by looking at this, you can see that if you combine these channels, and if you bounce off of those channels in a smart way, if you do things right, meaning you don't send just a plain sales pitch through every channel, that's the kind of the winning combination. Now, let's talk about quickly how you should think about email only versus multi-channel outreach, because again, multi-channel outreach requires a little bit more investment up front, meaning preparing that information, writing that multi-channel copy, and everything else. So how do you optimize that effort? So you can look at three conditions: by sales process, by deal size, and by ICP. If you are only working with inbound leads, because they are inbound leads, they know who you are, they trust you, and they expect to get communications from you. This is where we recommend doing LinkedIn plus email, plus phone calls if you are acquiring those phone calls from those inbound leads as well. If you rely solely on outbound leads, it has to be email first, sometimes email only, and only a light touch of LinkedIn. Again, in such a way that only kind of reinforces the perception that I'm a live human trying to connect and not trying to pitch slap you, as they say, through every channel. By deal size, if it's a small kind of deal size, relatively speaking, 1 to 5K deals, rely on email because that's how you can scale without distracting yourself. If it's 5 to 10K deals, email heavy and start introducing a bit of LinkedIn. Fully automated, light touches, things like view profile or like recent post, and then maybe connect. If it's a bigger deal, number 3 and 4 is even more heavy reliant on LinkedIn, and then introduce phone calls because at those deal sizes, you can afford to have your sales team to make phone calls. And again, it just makes sense. By ICP, by tier 1, 2, 3, what we mean here is these are kind of priority level leads by how desirable they are to you. You might have like your ideal ICP, but you might have some adjacent markets or adjacent countries or some not super ideal customer profiles that you wouldn't mind having. So the lower priority, the the more reliance on highly scalable email only campaigns there is. So I hope it makes sense. Again, feel free to ask your questions. We're gonna try to get to them. Again, quick plug, we will be sending this presentation. You will see 2 links, best practices when it applies to all of these channels. There's quite a lot of information. And also we have prepared and launched this whole course in partnership with several companies on how to set up your multi-channel outreach campaigns. Let's talk about the tactics of running linear versus conditional outreach. So this is a relatively new thing in cold outreach in general. Only a handful of companies are doing true multi-channel campaigns. And by saying true, I mean combining multiple channels, but not in just a linear fashion. Hey, we're going to send an email, then a LinkedIn, then a phone call. But we're checking certain things and conditions in that process in order to then decide what exactly do we send or what exactly do we say in those follow-ups. So linear outreach, what differentiates and sets it apart from branched outreach. Predefined steps sent sequentially, as I've already described. Email 1, 2, 3, for instance. Benefits, easy, simple, predictable. Again, quick to get started. Limitations, we're not checking for conditions, therefore we're sort of partially wasting our leads because we're by checking certain conditions like did they open, did they click, did they do this or that, we can then adjust our messaging and channeling accordingly, so in order to make the best use of that database. Otherwise, people had to previously, even in our system, before we had these branched sequences, they had to create multiple different campaigns and move people around manually. Now that's no longer a problem. Conditional outreach is the way to go in our view. Again, it's a little bit more complex. It requires a little bit more onboarding. Thanks to our customer success, we help our customers with that. Although we also do have a ton of partners, such as agencies like Patrick's agency, that can walk you through everything and even do all of this for you without you having to lift a finger. But anyways, the benefits of conditional outreach are you are essentially making the best use of that database and no contact is left behind, because with each branching, you're essentially maximize the chances of getting a response, getting a trial sign up, a meeting booked, because it looks at yes or no conditions. We're gonna get to that part in a second. And I'm speeding up here because we only have 5 minutes left. Key tactics with branch sequences. We recommend Which, by the way, quick side note, in reply, we are already offering templated branched sequences. If you haven't seen them, feel free to go check some of the templates. They're easy to understand. They're not super complex because branch sequences could become like such a huge tree. Again, that's a very advanced, cool thing, but you don't have to start there. You can start simple and then expand and evolve your branch sequences as you go. So you can start with branches like data availability. For instance, you can check, do I have a LinkedIn profile or do I not have a LinkedIn profile for each contact? If I do, then start with a LinkedIn campaign, LinkedIn touchpoint, connection request, like post, and all of those things. If not, then do email. Or vice versa. If you have an email, but you may or may not, sorry, if you have a LinkedIn and may or may not have an email, do the things, but in reverse. The idea is you want to kind of talk to people where they are and based on the information you have available for them. Second step, second tactic, integrate multiple channels. So use email for things like professional communication, LinkedIn for building rapport. Again, I always stress that LinkedIn is not so great for pitch slapping because you all have seen those pitches. I certainly do on a daily basis. That's not what works. What works is creating genuine connections. And that's what helps then with the rest of the sequence through other channels as well. SMS works. It's kind of it's a tough area in certain jurisdictions, whether or not you're allowed to send a cold SMS. But if you can afford to send an SMS, this by far this has the highest response rates. So we definitely recommend incorporating it if you have phone numbers. And the third key tactic is don't be afraid to intervene from time to time to keep things kind of personalized at those steps where you can afford to do so. When a certain kind of qualification steps have already completed, you know that this person is, let's say, potentially interested because reply has updated it with an interested status. But at a certain point, you want to show up in their inbox with a personalized video where you recorded yourself and offered something and or described something. So again, don't be afraid to still add some personal touches for those people that you really want to get a reply from, even in these branched scenarios. Avoid over automation. It kind of is self-explanatory. You don't want to look and feel like, people hate, and this kills the deals immediately when they understand that they sent a response and got a canned reply, no matter how much AI was in that. AI is getting there, but we're still not there. So try to avoid that over automation. Monitor and adjust. Also kind of a standard recommendation we've been repeating for years, which is you want to look at open rates, reply rates, email metrics, LinkedIn metrics, call metrics, and adjust accordingly. Always A/B test, because by eliminating a less performing variant, obviously you're increasing the chances and increasing the likelihood of establishing connections going forward, and then kind of capitalize on that. This is kind of the section where we already gone through it, unless Patrick, if you have any other tips for advanced personalization in Clay, because you've already talked about AI-based personalization into Clay tables. Anything else to add here?
Given that we have a minute, probably not enough time to go into
Yeah,
advanced personalization in Clay.
you're right.
But obviously there's a ton of information on Clay's website as well as on like my LinkedIn. If you guys ever wanted to check that out, I have a lot of content on the specific topic.
Yeah, we have to skip the Q&A, but again, we're going to be in touch with those people who ask their questions in the chat. Feel free to connect with both me and Patrick using the information on the screen. We would like to thank everyone. Honestly, I thought it would be a little bit worse in terms of the amount of information fitting into 45 minutes. But again, thanks everyone. for joining. I hope you found this useful, and we hope to see you in our next events. Patrick, any final words?
Yeah, just if you guys have any questions that were left unanswered in this, feel free to just shoot me a DM on LinkedIn. I'm gonna plan to try to get to all of them if possible. So obviously feel free to reach out, and yeah, appreciate it, guys.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.